But the thing is that that takes up a ton of space. So if you have like a 5-gallon carboy with 5 gallons of wort in it and this big old Kreuzen, there's not enough volume inside of that vessel to hold all the things that are inside of it. So it's going to blow out. Your airlock on top will pop off. Your blowout tube will be going crazy and get all shot full of foam. So you want to make sure there's plenty of room for the beer to grow, because it's going to. And then it'll fall back down, and then you can put it into a 5-gallon. So just so you're aware of that. So we're going to go ahead and seal up our beer. And again, there's like a rubber O-ring around the inside of this lid that makes sure there's a nice airtight seal. And we pop in our airlock. And we're going to put a little bit of water into this. Now, there's a lot of other people that talk about how these things work, but if you haven't watched any other brew videos and this is the first one you're seeing, essentially what's happening is you have this airlock on top. We're going to fill it up with water up to this line here, and then this inner piece will float. Okay, and as CO2 is being produced inside of this, the pressure difference will press this inner piece up and burp out a CO2 bubble. But as soon as that CO2 bubble burps out, the lid will fall back down, and now outside air can get inside. CO2 can come out, fresh air can't get in. So the idea is you're keeping the vessel completely contained, and also allowing that CO2 to go somewhere so it doesn't just explode, which it certainly would if you had nowhere for it to purge to. So we're going to stick some water in this thing, throw on a label, and we're done. One thing I'll tell you is a lot of guys will take what's called a specific gravity reading. Okay, they'll take a hydrometer, they'll take a sample from this, and they'll float it and find out exactly where their beer came out to. In this case, I'm really not interested. For me, this is a beer that I'm just going to be drinking around the house. I'm not entering any competition or anything like that, and I've made it enough times to know where I'm at. This beer should be coming out to about 5.5% alcohol, and that's really all I'm interested in. So if you wanted to, before you seal it up, at this point, you should have taken a sample of your wort out, check the original gravity, and you can use that as a reference point later on during secondary fermentation. You can take another sample to see if you're about 25% lower than where you started, and start to get an idea of how much longer your beer has to go. I'm just going to make this one. I'm going to let it go into primary for probably about 2 weeks. It's unusually cold in my basement right now. It's about 45 degrees. So for a steam beer, that's extremely cold, and we're using that Kolsch yeast, so it can really handle the temperature. But it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens to this. I'll stick it into a secondary after 2 weeks, and it's probably going to hang down here until spring rolls around or whatever. So I'm certainly not worried about it fermenting long enough. But as far as being able to actually tell you exactly what the alcohol level is, we can just check what the final gravity is later. If one of my friends is like, well, where did it come out to? We can check that in a few weeks, and it'll all be the same to me. So anyhow, we're pretty much done here. So what I'm going to say is, if you guys have any additional questions, you want me to elaborate anything, I know I've been really chatty this whole time, and it could have been a lot shorter, but I'm trying to be thorough because I watched a lot of videos that were pretty vague in a lot of ways. I've watched guys say, you want to go to the store and get yourself some grain, and then do this and do that, and get yourself some yeast. Well, what kind of yeast? What kind of grain? And a lot of guys just kind of assume you know what's going on. Like in this case, we used Kolsch yeast. Okay, we started off with 2-row British Pale, actually Maris Otter more specifically. We used Amarillo hops. Okay, we used Caramel or Crystal 80 as our only adjunct that was added here. So it's a very straightforward beer. Single infusion. We mashed at 150. It's pretty darn straightforward. That's why I thought it'd be a great first beer for any all-grain guy. There's only one ingredient that isn't your base malt. There's 3 very simple hop additions. You got your Irish moss, and all of these things are going to become very standard practice to you. You're probably going to have bittering hops. You're probably going to have flavor hops. You're probably going to have aroma hops, with the exception of making something like an Oktoberfest, or maybe you only have 1 hop addition, or if you're making an IPA that has several hop additions that are in much larger quantities than something like this. But I think this is a very good place to start, especially if you like kind of a hoppy beer. This is nice and hoppy, nice and malty. It's going to present very well. And because of the fact that it's a steam beer, you kind of got a lot of wiggle room in terms of what temperatures you need to hit. So if you do have any questions or things I didn't address, I'm more than happy to answer them. And I hope to hear from you guys, because that's kind of what makes it worthwhile for me. So hope everybody has some good beers turning out, and then I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so now we're really done. I just kind of want to show you guys what I do. I used to write on original gravities and all that stuff, but like I said, I really don't bother with that anymore because I do let them sit for so long, and to me, I'm really not interested in what the alcohol content is. And as far as recreating stuff goes, if I was a little off one day, I probably knew what was going on, but basically I'll just make a label. It just tells me what kind of beer it is and what date it went in. Okay, so like in this case, today's January 20th, so I have 120 on there that it went into primary. You can see next to it here I have my Budvar clone from exactly a week ago today, actually. And this is that airlock thing I was talking about. It's been babbling a few times. It's going again right now. We're a week into primary fermentation. It's still rattling, and it's putting a nice... There's 5 ounces of Saz in here, which is just terrific. So my little lagering room here smells pretty darn good right now. But basically, yeah. When you rack into secondary, I'll just take this, and I use masking tape. That's kind of why I wanted to stop and show you this. It's just like some good ideas. I use masking tape on all this stuff, so first of all, it comes off, and secondly, it doesn't leave any gunk in my fermenters. So I'll just yank that off. We'll rack into a 5-gallon carboy, write the new date on there, whatever the date of secondary was. Like, if we put it in another 2 weeks, you know, it'll be like February 7th or whatever, February 6th. And we'll just slap that on here, stick the beer in there, then I'll bottle it. Oh, here's a great example. On my Czech pills there, you know, I got the original brew date, 10/22, then I got the secondary, 11/4, bottled on 12/17, and here we are, and you know, towards the end of January, and I still got this one aging, and I got a whole bunch of stuff like that. It's just nice to have a series of labels so you know what the hell's going on. I can't tell. I've met dudes that'll open up a closet and have like 5 or 6 carboys, and you're like, what's that one? And they're like, well, when we bottle it, I'll be able to smell it and I can probably figure it out, but hell if I know. And I couldn't handle not knowing. So anyway, just thought I'd share that with you guys. And last thing I should mention too is just I'm trying to pass off as much as I can as far as what I've learned. It's just a good idea to keep your grain in the basement if you can, especially if your basement's cooler. If you're like out in California or Arizona and it's super hot no matter where you go, you're probably going to need to look into refrigeration. But if you're in the Midwest, it's just a good idea to keep your grain as cool as you can. In the summer, it will start to degrade. You risk mold, you risk all kinds of stuff. So keep it nice and cool and safe and dry, and it'll always be fresh for you. So anyway, guys, I hope this is a good reference point to anyone who's just getting into all grain brewing. And again, I want to start getting into some really serious techniques and some really serious stuff. I want to get way more into isomerization, how it works, way more into yeast metabolic processes. We'll do some decoction brewing, some much more sophisticated stuff where we'll do like a 90-degree acid rest, like a 122-degree protein rest. We'll go up to like 155 for sacharification. We'll do like a 170-degree mash out, just for the sake of the fact of being able to calculate what temperatures your decoctions need to be, or the quart sizes and all that sort of thing, and just to make you a well-rounded brewer that can handle anything thrown at you. Because let's face it, if you sit down and drink a beer that somebody else made that you liked, you should be able to make it yourself, because why the hell buy it from somebody else when you can make it? So anyway, I hope your beers are turning out great, and I hope you come back to the page, and if you want to subscribe, I wouldn't mind that at all. So thanks, guys.